So what do we need to do? Basically, we need to spread the word that this is an issue that is important because it affects 10% of eligible voters, well, 8 or 9% of eligible voters who are living overseas. We need to register all the students who are eligible to register as absent voters, because even with the current setup, there's no excuse for them not to be able to process student votes. And if enough students register, then A, they have to put in place the mechanisms for massive postal voting, because we're talking about over 20,000 absent votes from overseas. They've got to make the campaigning period long enough, because there's no point giving students the absent votes if the election is 9 days after dissolution and the votes won't be counted. And what we need to do is really to recruit volunteers and people who are willing to help with spreading the word, the education campaign, and fundraising. Because this what we're aiming to do is going to cost money. And we need litigants as well, who are basically going to be people who are not students. So any Malaysian citizen who's working overseas, living overseas, and who is not at present eligible to register as an absent voter. What we will then do is, these litigants will act as, will basically have a class action litigation. They'll be representatives of the rest of the Malaysians in the same circumstances who are unable to register as absent voters to vote, and we will bring a legal action in the High Court in Kuala Lumpur to challenge the 2002 regulations. We're not saying that it's bound to. I mean, we all know what the judiciary in Malaysia is like, but it's one of these things that if you don't push on the door's never going to open. You know, regardless of whether you think there's someone else pushing on the other side. If you don't try, you're never going to do it. You're never going to get anywhere. So this really, we have to put the pressure, political pressure on the Election Commission and legal pressure on the Election Commission and the courts to show that they're both of them, because the Election Commission and the judiciary are supposed to be, and they're under the Constitution, they're supposed to be independent, impartial agencies, and they pretend to be impartial agencies. So we have to put the pressure on them to live up to what they say they are and what they pretend to be. So this is why we think it's important to fund and to bring this litigation. And it's also publicity, because Malaysians overseas need to know that they're just because they're living overseas doesn't mean they don't have a stake in the future of Malaysia. You know, many of us have lived here for 10, 15 years. It would have been easy for any of us to take up a British passport and, you know, or American passport and give up on Malaysia. But the fact that so many people still retain their Malaysian citizenship, I think is something that the government needs to acknowledge, because if these people are ever going to be recruited to come back and work in Malaysia, if they're going to reverse the brain drain, then they're only going to do it if Malaysians keep hold of their citizenship. And, you know, if they're treated as foreigners and not allowed to vote, you know, what's the incentive for Malaysians to keep their Malaysian passports? So even if we're not successful, we will have raised the issue among the overseas Malaysian community, but also we will have raised it as an election issue in Malaysia, and it will affect the credibility of the Election Commission, the government, and the judiciary. Because if they don't give us what we want, you know, it's going to be obvious that they are just tools of the government and not doing their job. I mean, it's what people, what someone was quoted saying: "Speak softly, but with a big stick." They're not going to listen to you unless they know that you can do something if they say no. If we have, you know, ideally, the ideal situation would be we raise the funds, we prepare for the litigation, we're in negotiation with them, they say, okay, fine, we give in, you can have it. That's great. We don't even need to go to court. But this whole idea of forever, membuat kajian, and you just look at what they've done with the ISA. They say, oh yes, we've been reviewing the ISA, we're going to amend it. They've been saying that for the past 2 years. The amendments were supposed to be tabled in last year, and then they're supposed to be tabled in July this year, and they're supposed to be tabled in October, which is now passed already. It's just never going to happen. We've estimated it will cost about 30,000 ringgit at each stage: High Court, Court of Appeal, Federal Court, and then we've had to double that in order to cover the eventuality that if we lose, we have to pay we may be made to pay the other side's costs. So we may have to pay our own legal costs as well as the Election Commission's legal costs. So our aim has always been to raise 200,000 Malaysian dollars, which is it's not that much when you convert it into pounds or US dollars. It's 40,000 pounds, about 60,000 US dollars. If you divide that by 1 million Malaysians overseas, well, you can do the maths yourself. I think it's something like 20 cents per Malaysian for the right to vote, which is probably the most precious and valuable right of the citizen. So if Malaysians are not prepared to, raise the money to win them the right to vote, then we're in for a difficult time. Okay, the ideal litigant would be, someone who's been over here maybe a few years, is working here, still a Malaysian citizen, obviously, and is just willing to put his name or her name down to the legal action. What they would have to do, basically, all they would have to do is just, we would get the lawyers to draft an affidavit saying that, I tried to register, but I called up, I went to the Malaysian High Commission, or I called up the Malaysian High Commission, and I was told I wasn't eligible. I filled in a form, which is annexed, and the form was rejected. That's it, really. We don't see that the litigants would actually be cross-examined, or they wouldn't have to appear in court in Malaysia. All that would happen is that the arguments would be just on the law. I don't think anyone would dispute. I don't think the Election Commission would try to dispute the facts, because it's indisputable. I mean, the problem with lawyers giving assessments in Malaysia is that if the judiciary was impartial and did its job without bias or favouring the government, then this would be your chances. Unfortunately, our advice basically is that our legal case is good. Whether politically the government allows us to win is a different matter. We actually launch litigation. There will be correspondence between our lawyers and their lawyers, and it'll be the kind of thing that you do here before pre-action correspondence, which will say our clients are in this position, our clients are so and so, these are their names, we've been denied the vote, we want you to amend the regulations or give us or state that you will do so within 3 months, or we will file a writ in the High Court. Yeah, basically we got a UK bank account. When I go back to Malaysia, I'm going to access another one in Malaysia. But basically we have a PayPal account that can accept donations in any currency. Obviously, there's a small credit card fee if it's paid by credit card, or if it's paid in a foreign currency. But we can accept pretty much any donation.